You're driving home. Another driver suddenly moves into your lane, and there's contact. Both cars stop. You get out to see what happened, but before you can even understand the damage, the other driver starts shouting. They blame you. They point at your car. They hit your mirror, and they bang on your windshield. Then they tell you to get out of the car. Now you have a decision. You could open the door, you could shout back, and you could prove that you're right. Or you could stay inside and ask yourself one simple question. What happens if I engage? Because this is why smart people never engage in road rage. Not because they don't know how to defend themselves, and not because they don't know when someone else is wrong, but because they understand something that an angry person standing outside your car usually doesn't. The accident may already be over, and the dangerous part is what happens next. And dangerous isn't a figure of speech. People have been assaulted over a fender bender. People have been dragged out of their cars. People have been shot over a lane change, over a parking spot, and over nothing. Not often, but often enough that it's the first thing worth thinking about, not the last. Think about what just happened inside that situation. The original problem was simple. What happened to the cars? But the moment the shouting started, the problem changed. Now the question is, what are these two angry people going to do next? One person shouts, and the other shouts louder. One gets closer, and the other steps forward. The situation stops being about the cars and becomes a competition of who backs down first. Their anger belongs to them, and it doesn't have to become yours. A 2025 AAA Foundation study of over 3,000 drivers found that aggressive driving is often driven by a need for retaliation and control. The driver isn't just angry, they're looking for someone to absorb it. One person's aggression is a pitch, waiting for you to swing. The moment you respond, you've swung, and now you're both feeding it. The smart driver doesn't have to win that exchange. They can simply refuse to start it. The other driver can shout, but you don't have to shout back. They can gesture, but you don't have to gesture back. They can demand you get out, but you don't have to accept the invitation, because you already know the answer to the question of what happens if you engage. Nothing good. In the best case, you trade insults over a dented bumper. In the worst case, a stranger who has already lost control decides you are the target for whatever happens next, and you don't get to choose which case you are in. That is decided by the other person, not you, which is exactly why you don't hand them the chance to decide it. Now look at what's happening around you while this argument is going on. Nobody stepped in to help, but people are taking out their phones. A bystander's phone doesn't turn on until something looks interesting. Nobody films two cars stopped quietly. They film the shouting, which means the clip that ends up online almost never starts at the beginning. It starts in the middle, right when you finally react. The 30 seconds of provocation before that never made it into frame. Your face, your voice, and your hands, that's the only part that gets kept. That footage goes on Facebook and on WhatsApp groups, shared by people who weren't there and who never saw what happened before the camera started rolling. They just see a man losing his temper in a car park, and the comments write themselves. Your neighbor sees it, and your cousin sends it to the family group. Your phone starts ringing, not to ask if you're okay, but to tell you what you should have done. They say you shouldn't have got out of the car, and you made yourself look bad. Meanwhile, the person who actually caused the accident is already home, and has already forgotten about it. And this is exactly where a dashcam changes things. It was recording before the shouting started, before either of you got out. It doesn't wait for a dramatic moment to switch on. It's just always on. So you don't have to convince an angry stranger of the truth in a parking lot. You just document the damage and let the full footage do the work later. The reactive person thinks they need to prove they are right now, to this person. The smart person thinks they need to document what happened from the start, before anyone decided to get angry. You don't know this person. You don't know whether they're intoxicated, whether they're carrying something, whether they're just angry, or completely losing control. This is the actual reason to stay in the car. Not manners, not evidence, and not looking good on video. A stranger banging on your windshield has already shown you he's not thinking clearly, and the safest version of you, in that moment, is the version still sitting behind a locked door. You don't need to find out. Now put your wife in the seat beside you and put your grandkids in the back. Same angry driver outside, same banging on the door, and same voice telling you to get out. For a moment, pride says, "Don't let this person disrespect you in front of your family." But then you look in the rearview mirror and the question changes completely. It's no longer who's right, it's how do I get everyone home safely. You may be furious and you may be completely right, but your family doesn't need you to win an argument in a parking lot. They need you to make a good decision. Smart people feel the anger, they just don't let it make the next decision for them. So they stay inside and they keep the doors locked. Being cautious of an unpredictable stranger isn't weakness, it's just accurate. They know exactly what they're protecting. So what does the smart person actually do in that moment? They stay in the car, doors locked, window up or barely cracked. If the other driver is calm, they roll the window down enough to exchange information and note the damage. If the other driver is escalating, banging on the car, and making them feel unsafe, that's the moment to call the police. Not as a last resort, but as the plan the whole time a stranger is behaving like that. They don't chase, and they don't block the other car. They write down the plate number, note the time and location, and check whether the dashcam caught everything. The argument was never going to fix the car. Insurance does that, and evidence does that. Winning the parking lot argument fixes nothing, but documenting everything fixes it properly. Don't let someone else's 5 minutes of rage cost you something that took decades to build. So why do smart people never engage in road rage? Because they already know the answer to the question of what happens if they engage. Maybe you get the last word, and maybe you feel right for 5 minutes. But what did you actually win? Look at what the smart person kept. They kept themselves and their family safe from a stranger they had no way of reading. They kept their hands to themselves. In a situation where one wrong move changes everything, they kept their record clean, their insurance intact, and their reputation away from someone's Facebook feed. That's not weakness. That's the only move that had no cost. The angry driver thinks he won because you didn't fight back. Let him think that. He doesn't know what you were protecting or who was sitting in that car. A broken mirror can be replaced, and a damaged bumper can be fixed. But a 5-second clip shared by thousands of strangers follows you differently, and you and your family, sitting safe at home instead of caught up in something that could have gone a lot worse, isn't something you fix after the fact. It's something you only get by not risking it in the first place. That's exactly why smart people never engage. The next time someone cuts you off, hits your car, gets out, and tries to pull you into a fight, remember the question, what happens if I engage? You already know the answer, so you stay calm, you document it, you protect your family, and you go home, because you don't have to win the road. You just have to get home. Have you ever stayed calm when someone tried to pull you into a road rage confrontation? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one.